Hello and welcome to Galaxy Advisors. The purpose of this video is to demonstrate how to use the Condor Tool, the web collector. It all begins with your interest, and so take a few moments to think about what is your area of interest. Is it a new innovation, a company, a product, a service, a politician, a celebrity? It doesn't matter. The main thing is you need to begin to think about what word or phrases or URLs would help describe your area of interest. So take a moment, think about what is your area of interest, what word or phrase would help capture that, what maybe particular date or year might be associated with the start of a company or start of an innovation that you want to begin your search on, or what particular URL would also serve as a starting point for your investigation. Again, this is more the art of the investigation, and a little upfront work will go a long way. You can always come back and change it as you learn, but the main thing is to have a few keywords or phrases or date or URL to begin your web search. Let's review just briefly the basic process steps. The first one is the tools for data harvesting. Here you're going to use the Condor tool, and we're going to use the example of the web to save your data of the area of interest, and I'm going to use a healthcare example into a database. Then after your search is completed, you're going to use the file to open that database and select the various data sets you want to analyze, and then you're going to spend most of your time in the view to visualize and measure that particular network. So let's begin by starting Condor. I'm sure quite familiar with that. Put in the monthly key, again only once at the beginning of the month. Leave host to localhost, the user to root, and again if you had set a MySQL password when you installed the database, enter it here. If you didn't, just leave it blank and click OK. Let's recall the three process steps. The first step is to use the tools for data harvesting. You create a database that store your data in. And in this example, we're going to use the World Wide Web as our data harvesting tool. Next, we're going to use the file to open that particular database and its corresponding data sets. And then we're going to use the view command to analyze the network, map out trends, and examine the content. Condor actually runs on both a Mac and a PC. They are identical in functionality, but with a little different aesthetic look and feel to them. So here's the version of what Condor looks like on a Mac. Again, identical functionality on a PC, but a little different screen display here, but all the commands are identical and actually in the same order. So let's begin our example here for the web. So click on the tools as part of our first process step for data harvesting, and then select Web Collector. After you do that, a form will open, and the next part of the video is to explain the different sections of this form and how to fill it out. There are actually 7 different sections to this form. 6 here are indicated in blue are options that you make choices on. The 7th at the bottom in orange is actually a logging that gives you kind of a running what Condor is doing when it's searching your particular query. And then on the upper left corner, database, and help in lower right are a few commands that you use to create your database and start and close this form with. So let's go through now each one of these 7 and explain how it's used in setting these parameters for your web search. The first thing begins with creating a database. So click Database, click New for the database. This window is going to open, and enter in a database name. The important thing about entering a database name is there's no spaces or special characters allowed. And after you do that, click OK. Now, after you've made created it once and you say, okay, I'm going to come back to it, I thought of some different words, different URLs, and so on. You don't create a new one. You can open the same one. Just click on Open. It'll give you a drop-down box, and you're going to select, in this case, healthcare, if you wanted to resume your search on that, and click OK. The very first section of the 7 is on the APIs, or Application Program Interfaces. There are 6 that Condor gives you a choice to use, and the first one we're going to demo is Google. And then there's 5 other ones. The Yahoo, just for your information, the API does charge, so you can create a Yahoo API key, and just Google Yahoo API key for the instructions on how to do that. Personally, have not used Yahoo. I guess I'm cheap for that standpoint. The Google blog and Google News search again are free, and if you're interested in that, you can bullet those. APIs. Bing, currently Bing Search and Bing News Search is free, but up until August 1st, when the current Bing keys will be decommissioned. They have a different threshold. If you use more than 5,000 searches in a month, then there's a fee charged for that. To keep up on what's going on with Bing, just Google Bing API key, and you can get the updates on those. So you have these 6 items, APIs, and for each search, when you enter a term or a URL, it's going to append in the database that name along with an identifier of what API was used. So in the case of Google search, it will append depth Google AJX to the end of the term, so you can have an idea of which API that you use. And so for the other databases APIs, you can see, given the site and the text, what is the actually appended to the name. Okay, the next section 2 is probably where it takes the most creative piece, is to enter the names that best describe your area of interest. Here I'm going to use telecare, telehealth, telemedicine, 3 terms in the area of healthcare that I'm interested in. If you have a phrase, you could put those in quotes. Sometimes it's telespace care or telespace health. I could have entered those in, and so then the search would look for that type of exact matching. So if you have a phrase and so on, put those in quotes. Now for each one of these, it's going to create 3 separate data sets: a data set for telecare, a data set for telehealth, and a data set for telemedicine. If you also were interested in whether or not a particular URL appears in text on a web page, you just put quotes around the website name and enter in the text query. Again, this is not looking for a backlink, which is a hard link. As you click on it, it takes you to a website. This says that this site name is actually in text on that page. A few other tips in using the query. For example, how you can use some of the Boolean ands. For Google Web, all 3 web tools, you can use a capital AND or an ampersand to separate the terms. For example, Detroit and collaboration and arts and October and 2011 is going to find that web pages that have all those terms on it. Or I could have syntactically put Detroit, the ampersand sign, and so on. Now, Bing uses a different convention. For the Bing search and Bing News, you include a plus sign in front of the first 2 terms to act as a Boolean AND, but only for 2 terms. It doesn't allow more than 2 at this point. So if I wanted to find Detroit and collaboration, for Bing or Bing News, I put plus Detroit space collaboration. So again, it takes a little bit to get used to using the Boolean. There is a difference between the APIs and how they use that Boolean AND in syntax. Third, for a URL query, again, enter the website. If you have multiple ones separated by a comma. And again, in this case, since we're using Google, you'll see that Google API appended to the name when you're looking at the results. Again, this finds the backlinks to the site depending upon the search name. It also might say, in this case of Echo Trends, I'm looking for Echo Space Trends. It may not give you the results that you're interested in. So again, be careful about the names and examine your output carefully to make sure these results are relevant to your search. And a service which lists a site's backlinks that I found is helpful actually is www.backlink.com. Watch.com, and it will then articulate for you sites that have links pointing to this particular website. And number 4, again, this is an area that's under construction. Condor is under continuous development. So this area number 4 is not operational at this point in time, so just skip number 4. Number 5, you'll see it says Bing Market in the English GB, which gives you an idea that you can actually use a geocode and say, I only want to look for results that are in a particular area or a radius around a particular city or location. So to activate the Bing Market, you have to select Bing Search or Bing News Search in the API, and then you'll see that it's bolded, it's not grayed out as the current example. You enter the latitude and longitude, and then a comma and a number representing up to 250 miles or kilometers. How far away do you want the search results to be retrieved? And you might say, well, where do I obtain that? Here's a handy website, gpsvisualizer.com/geocoder, that you can enter in a name of a city such as London. You click on buttons to start geocoding. It's going to come back and give you the results of the latitude and longitude. You just copy that, paste it into the Condor box there under the Bing Market, and put a comma and then enter either miles or kilometers, how far away you want the radius. So again, you have a little more geographical control over your search results. Number 6, another key options here is these 4 boxes going across. The first one, results at the top. This sets the upper limit of the number of search results. The default is 20. So you might say, oh, I only want to look at the top 5 or the top 10, or I want to look at the top 500 that are around. So you can change that parameter here for the look. Just retrieve the top number of sites. Degree of separation is the number of steps away from that website or search term to another one. Here, the default is set to 2, so it says given this site where it found your term on, I'm going to go out one website, then to another one, 2 for 2. Here, be careful if you set this very high and you have a high one up there. So this is going to be 20 if it finds 20, and then it's going to go to the next degree and find all those that are connected to those 20. So you can see it can multiply pretty much pretty fast. The next option is click content, which takes more time. The only caution here, if you check that, is that it's going to take everything on that web page. It's going to take the navigation controls. It's going to take maybe articles or information that are not relevant to your particular search term. So again, if you do collect it, it's going to take everything after. So you have to explore your particular area if that search results are relevant for you or not. And then finally, the final one is to preview results. If you want to see, get a feel for what Condor is finding with that particular API, you can review those and have a second chance to accept or not different websites from your hitting. Now for this example, I'm going to set the results for the top 100 for those 3 terms. I'm going to select degree of separation 1, meaning I only wanted those sites that I directly have that search term, in this case telecare, telehealth, and telemedicine on it. I'm not going to collect the content, and I'm not going to preview the results. What I'm interested in here is really how are those 3 terms and those websites associated with them overlapping. And 7 is the Condor log display window. And so in this when you first open, it's going to say no database is connected to it. After you create a database, there you'll see it down the bottom. It says now connected to healthcare. So this is kind of like the status display window as it begins its search. So we're back here. We have entered the form. The summary, Google API is checked. I've entered in my 3 search terms: telecare, telehealth, telemedicine. Again, section 4, that date is skip that. The Bing Market is grayed out because I have not selected the Bing Search or Bing News key. I've indicated the results of the top 100, only 1 degree separation. I'm not going to collect the content. I'm not going to prove. So at this point, we're all set and ready, and click Start. After a few seconds, you're going to see in the log window It's going to say starting collector, fetching the first degree, and so on. It's then going to give me results of how many nodes and edges or links were found for that particular search term. In this case, it took 10 seconds, and you can perform at this point another search. You can review those search. You can come back. So you have a lot of flexibility here at this point. Now, one thing to point out, you may get a message that says warning. What does this warning message mean? Typically, if you get this message, it is most likely because the Google API has timed out. My suggestion is wait an hour or longer, and in the text query or the URL query box window, rerun those terms which had the warning message. Again, the Condor software is working just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a Google API timeout issue, which is really out of our control. So you have to have some patience. You have to come back to it. I found that usually an hour is a pretty good time, and you might have to do it sequentially until you get all your search terms done. Finally, we've got our data collected. So the second process step is to use the file to open the database. So in this case, click on File, select Open Database. A database window will open. There's a little drop-down box, and find your one, in this case, Healthcare, and click OK. Then 3 data sets are going to show up, and you're going to see Telecare with this appended depth, Google, AJX, telehealth, and so on are the 3 search terms. So again, that was appended to it based upon the API. Then what you're going to do is to click on each data set to select it. So if you click on Telecare, you're going to see that it has 41 records. You click on Telehealth, it has 58 records. Click on Telemedicine, it has 50 records. So now I've got these 3 data sets that I'm going to analyze all at once. So we start really the third area, and the area that has the most interest, because now you're actually visualizing and measuring your data with a lot of options then, a lot of sophistication within the Condor Tool to analyze your resulting network. Again, in View, it takes 2 steps really. The first one is to create a communication view, which you're going to click View, Communication, Create Communication View. Then the second step is going to say click View, Communication, and Static or Dynamic. In this case, we're going to choose static because we don't really have any overtime data. It just did a one-time search of the web. Now, if you put it in a date in, you could actually modify the data and said, for example, I collected this information on 2010. I could change the records to make sure that that year was 2010, 2011, 2012, and so on to give me somewhat over time. But the basic steps here for the web initially here is a static view. So I'm going to click View, Communication, Create Communication View. It's then going to give me another series of options. For this one, I'm going to just click OK. I'm not going to refine any scores or so on. Then I'm going to go back up to the View menu, the second step, click Communication, and this time click Static View of Communications. I'm going to get another menu that's asking me, do I want to wait? I'm just going to accept a plain no waiting. And then it asks me, a second window will appear, do I want to select the top nodes? Now, in some cases, you might have thousands come back and say, oh boy, it's going to be a big blur on the page. Maybe I want just the top 500 or 100 or 50 and so on. At this point, we only have 136 nodes, and I'm not going to select any top nodes. I'm just going to click OK and select them all. Then I'm going to get a map. Here, the little square nodes are actually the search terms or the URLs that I used. The red nodes colored here are examples of nodes that have one or more overlapping data sets, and each data set is color coded. Now at this point you might say, well, you could take your mouse and mouse over those and the little mouse display will happen. But if you actually want to keep their names on it, you can use Condor's ability to right click on a node. So if you right click on any node, in this case I've right clicked it on the one of the terms, and I'm going to say show labels. And then by name. I could do it by the title, by any of the other pieces to display. And so to display the node of the name, just right click on the node, select Show Labels and Name. And as you can see, you can color the node differently. You can show a lot more information about this particular node. You can show it's between this value and so on. But a quick way is let's just label these. Now you have the other controls here again as a reminder: measure, view, bipartite, and control for other ways to modify and analyze the graph. Measure, one of the ones that I always like to use is the actor contribution index, and for my 3 terms, the search terms will be listed at the bottom here along the -1, and this gives me a quick count of the number of links that are attached to my terms. So in this case, telehealth has the most links to it, 58, telemedicine in between, and telecare around less than 40. And in the upper left, the nodes are the links to the search term. So again, I just use this just to give a quick count of how many links there. You can color the links, the nodes, the edges, and filter, and so on. You can spend a lot of time here in viewing. Bipartite, you can kind of regraft it by category, URL, and a number of options. And in this case, we had 3 data sets. Let's say I only wanted to watch 2. I could say select data sets and just choose 1 or 2 of them, or any combination that we want. So here I've come back. I've right-clicked on and said display the node. So I have a pretty good idea that actually, if I look in the center, Wikipedia and LifeSize are actually the 2 sites that connect telecare, telehealth, and telemedicine. I can see the sites that only telemedicine and telecare have in common, and for telehealth and telecare, and so on. So you can use those measure, view, bipartite, and control to further examine your graph. So at this point, that's one example of using the Condor web harvesting tool, and it's 6 different options here on the web form. So at this point, explore. Choose different query text. Choose different URLs. Set the results. You might set the results for only the top 5, only for maybe the top 5 with 3 or 4 or 5 degrees out to see what are the web network around that. So again, explore the web. This is the first example to get you started in the area of your interest and how you like to proceed. So that's where it ends our example for the web, and look forward to more videos on different aspects of the Condor harvesting tools. One thing you can also explore is to use Navicat. If you click on Navicat, you'll see there's a healthcare database, and below that are various tables. I've given you little snippets, screenshots of the charge table, which gives you an idea again that each data set is numbered. It says here's the URL from this site, gives you the title, the little snippet that was around the article, the links from this link to this link, and if you click on the data sets, it will give you a listing of the data set IDs that have been assigned to your search terms or URL. So lots to explore. Again, this is just a jumpstart example to have you fully understand the options that you have in exploring the web harvesting collector form and tool. Enjoy.